Inside the Birds is back. What's going on, everybody? Geoff, Mosher, Adam, Caplan here for another Inside the Birds, a game preview. Inside the Birds is Adam, Caplan. We got an interesting game that I don't know a lot of people would have said, a month ago, that Eagles versus the Jacksonville Jaguars week 4 would be more than interesting just because of Doug Pederson's welcome back. I mean, obviously everybody would have said, well, that's an important game on the calendar. Doug Pederson returns, but it's now between a 3-0 team and a 2-1 team.
Yeah, no doubt. No, I get it's a non-conference game. The first 3 games were in conference, 1 was in division. Yep. And the Jaguars are way better than most people thought, including yours truly, who spent a day with them in August. I didn't see this. And I can't wait till we get into the preview part because I got a lot of good information, injury stuff we got from our source. But fact of the matter is, it's an interesting game. Jacksonville's way better. Heck, I would say they're almost the favorite in the AFC South. That division's so bad. So we'll see what happens. But yeah, you're right, man. This sets up for an interesting game. And it's early Friday morning here. And unfortunately, unless the forecast changes, I know things could change. It's already changed twice.
Yeah.
Maybe we're not going to get rain on Tuesday, but barring a change, it's going to rain all day on Sunday. Now, the veracity of the rain may not be too bad, but we got a little tip from our friend John DeFilippo, the former Eagles quarterbacks coach, who said, "Hey, folks, when it rains, probably going to run the ball a little."
Probably a little bit, although there are some coaches. Well, not. I'm thinking snow. Andy Reid always felt in the snow you had an advantage of passing the ball, but the rain, a little bit differently. You're obscured a lot. And it depends on how hard it's raining. Usually it's windy in that case too. It's not always windy when it snows. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see if the rain does come. And while we're on that subject, I do want to, you and I give our thoughts and prayers and our best wishes for everybody in the South Florida area, for all Florida, really. That's a place that I think is near and dear, not only to a lot of our Philadelphia area listeners, but we also have a lot of listeners from the South and all over the place, and
Sure.
A lot of relatives. My mother lives in Florida. My best friend's parents live in Florida, and in Fort Myers, actually, my best friend's parents live. So they had to evacuate.
Hard.
Yeah. So, and I know that the Tampa Clearwater area is home to a lot of Delaware Valleyans because of the Phillies have their spring training complex there. So from the bottom of our hearts, we hope everybody is okay. And, pulling through. Also, as you mentioned, we had a great, not good, not even great, I would say Hall of Fame level 1 hour long interview discussion. It didn't feel like an interview. It just felt like a bunch of guys talking football, but with former Eagles quarterbacks coach John DeFilippo. That was our exclusive bonus podcast this month for our Patreon subscribers. So if you really want to hear this interview, and he touched on everything from the Super Bowl season, including having maybe a tell. He talked about having a tell against the Vikings that wound up coming into fruition. Obviously Jalen Hurts, the RPO offense, what they're doing from a defensive standpoint, pattern matching, and a really interesting and very honest critique of himself as both Carson Wentz's quarterbacks coach and just in general as a coaching evaluator. He there's some pretty good quarterbacks that he admittedly missed on as an evaluator, and he explained how, why, and what that did for him in his career. So it was great. An hour of John DeFilippo, who's one of the most candid guys you will ever have, be able to talk to.
In the coaching business, he's known as one of the best quarterback developers. He's worked with, developed many. And the other cool thing, and I was hoping he would be willing to do, is he said absolutely, because he said, "Hey, could you send me the list of questions or things you want to discuss?" And we sent it to me because, "Oh, this is great, I could absolutely do this." And one of the things I love is that he took us through what it's like game planning when you're a quarterback coach and you're an offensive coach.
That was
starting
awesome.
on Monday, coming in the building for a Sunday game.
Right.
It was fascinating. This whole show was 100% inside football.
Yep.
If you want to be a smarter fan, listen to this. And John agreed he's going to come back with us later in the season. And we're also working on, only for Patreon subscribers. By the way, we're not allowed to, by agreement with Patreon, to put this on YouTube. So the only way you could see it is if you're a Patreon subscriber. Jeff will give details how to subscribe. But we're working on, we're close to an agreement with a former NFL defensive coordinator. You come with us later in the season, And to say he knows the Fangio defense would be an understatement, and I'm going to leave it at that.
No, that's awesome. Yeah, no, that whole, if you ever wondered what Monday through Friday is like for an NFL team, besides the 2 hours of practice on the field, but like the film room, the classroom, the way the game plan comes together, John was extraordinary at basically explaining that. And also the role of analytics people with personnel people, advanced scouts, quality control. A lot of people see quality control. They don't know what that means. He did an excellent job of putting it all together. So if you want to become a Patreon subscriber, just go to patreon.com/InsideTheBirds and sign up. Patreon.com/InsideTheBirds. Let's see. Normal Sunday pregame show. We're back 10 a.m. till noon at Rivers Casino and Sportsbook. Myself, Adam, Jason Avant, Greg Cosell. It's going to be a fantastic show. And then, of course, the post-game show right around 4:30, Adam, myself, and Trey Thomas. And that will also be the next morning pod. And I thought Q&O had a great show this week. If you haven't haven't caught Quentin Michael and Jason Avant's show on the Inside the Birds platform, you really should. They are super psyched about the Eagles being 3-0, as you can imagine, in a way that like Adam and I, we're way more analytical, and those guys are analytical, but they're also got like, the real Eagles fever in them. So I know the fans kind of like that a lot. So you should go check it out because they didn't mind gushing a little bit about some of the things that are going really, really well for the Eagles. All right. We will get into the podcast now. By the way, a couple of things, news and notes. Jalen Hurts was the NFC Player of the Month for September. So it was a big week it was a big month for awards. So Jalen Hurts gets Player of the Month, and then Brandon Graham was Defensive Player of the Week. And then the week before, it was Darius Slay was Defensive Player of the Week against Minnesota. So you got Eagles all over the awards right now. That's what you get when you're 3-0 and you're dominating teams.
One of only 2 undefeated teams coming into the week. It's just an amazing story. Hurts has been lights out. And also give Nick Sirianni, the head coach, Shane Steichen, the OC, Brian Johnson, the quarterback's coach. It takes a village, as they say in the NFL, to get a quarterback ready for a game. Particularly the younger quarterback. But what I'd say is, I was talking to Derek Gunn this week on a show, and I thought this is probably the way you should look at this situation and how you become a good quarterback. You got to be willing to be coached. Check. You got to have a great temperament. Check. You got to be a leader. Check. You got to be tough. Check. DeFilippo's got some good stuff from Jalen Hurts in the show we were talking about. Really good stuff from the tape study coming into the 20 draft. He checks off so many boxes, and the players, as you know, it's not a secret, they adore him. And look, when you got a lot going for you, then it becomes, okay, can you perform the job? Check. So far through 3 games, let's not get ahead of ourselves. He's lights ahead of where he was last season. And, I don't say I was skeptical of the information we got in the spring. We kept hearing how his timing's better. He's not anticipation thrower, but he's doing better at identifying and not bailing. And I was like, okay, let's see what happens in training camp. And he really didn't bail. It was such a last year. I don't think he had a great training camp. In fact, I know he didn't. It was very up and down, more down than up.
Yep.
And then he has this training camp where he's really good. So you go, okay, it's minor leagues, AAA baseball's training camp in the preseason. No preseason for him anyway because they weren't going to play him. But let's just see. But I'm cautiously optimistic, and he's been lights out. He deserves that award. The coaches do for game planning. And here's another one for you. An area where he's really improved, probably one of the most, maybe not talked about enough. He's become an excellent downfield thrower. And understand this: downfield throws over 30 yards are a low percentage throw.
Right.
That it's harder to throw downfield, and he's got this willingness to say, "Go get the football." And that's huge. And that shows you the confidence that he has.
Yeah, that's right. And also, I was going to say the confidence, and then the fact that his receivers can actually go get it, which has been, I've marveled at it. I know we'll get into the Eagles offense in a few, but again, for people who have watched the Eagles over the last 25, 30 years, I don't know, since the days of Carmichael, right, in his prime, like there just have not been, other than T.O., which was only a year and a half. I mean, if you think about it, the whole T.O. saga may feel like it was 10 years long, but it wasn't even a full season, right? He played 12 games his first year, I think, maybe even less, and then 3 games the next year, and then he was done.
Yeah, late November.
Yeah, but like before him and after him, for modern Eagles history, you just have not seen guys who can go up and get it. You've seen speed demons like Macklin and Jackson. You've seen guys be able to, Alshon Jeffrey could go get it. Like, I guess he would be on that, but not run the full route tree and be explosive. He just happened to be able to sort of had a knack for using his body to get the ball. But this is like, and again, Alshon really wasn't healthy a whole lot as an Eagle. So it wasn't that many games of Alshon you got to enjoy. This has been, as these two guys stay healthy and are playing for the next 3, 4, 5 years, it's going to be something special.
Wait till you hear what Steve Filippo says about, he has this great line about having a third pass option. That's all I'm going to tell you. And Joe, by the way, Geoff on our Twitter account put a really good clip up of something Flip said in our interview, which is really interesting.
Mm-hmm.
He told me off the air, he goes, he's just kind of in awe of the job how Roseman's done it, but putting together this offense. The roster's obviously very good on defense too.
Right.
He just is kind of like, it's amazing. And we did talk about comparing the 17 team to the 22 team. Another subject, but I don't want to give that away. In fact, he didn't want to criticize the 17 team because that won a Super Bowl, but he can't really control you can see it in his face in this interview. He's kind of in awe of how talented the Eagles offense is.
He really was. He really is. All right, couple of transactions for the Eagles this past week. They signed the offensive tackle who had been with them early, I think, in training camp, right? He worked out for them. Roderick Johnson to the practice squad, and he replaces LaRaven Clark, who got signed from the practice squad to the Tennessee Titans 53-man roster. So the Eagles have lost a couple of, they obviously waived they waived one of them in Awosika, right? They waived him. He wanted
no, he was not off the practice squad.
No, I'm saying like out of training camp though, and then they I'm just sort of talking about the depth that they had at one point, but then had a waive. They wanted to keep Sills, so they waived both Anderson and Awosika, right? Awosika came back to the practice squad, but he got signed by somebody. The Bills, Anderson got claimed.
Lions.
Right, Lions. Right. Jack Anderson was claimed. Giants, right? And now LaRaven Clark. So they've lost 3 of the backups that we kept saying how deep they were. If you go back to last year, losing or taking the tender off of Nate Herbig, who went to the Jets. That's 4 of their big time backups from last year who are all now gone. So
right now, this is a great point. So right now, because Roderick Johnson, by the way, he had limited starting experience with the Texans.
Right.
I'm told he's a backup left tackle. He's basically a 9th or 10th offensive lineman if you bring him. That's what he is. He could start if you need him to. It's a good signing for a guy with depth. But here's the amazing thing. This goes right to your point. He is as we speak, Friday morning. I can't believe this is the case, but it is. They only have 2 offensive linemen on the practice squad? No, 3. Okay. Cameron Tom was really only a center.
Right.
Jared Williams, who's a project tackle.
Yeah.
Who's tall, but was with the Eagles in training camp. And now Roderick Johnson is like, I don't call him a veteran, but he's at least the guy's had experience. So it's not a lot. For a team that is crazy for offensive linemen, you'd like to see a guy that can come up. And Roderick Johnson would be that guy if somebody got hurt.
Yeah, that's
the rough. Cameron Tom would be that interior guy, but he's really, I was told, a center, not much of a guard.
Well, they have 2. So if you look up at their backup picture now, Dillard's hurt. He should be back hopefully in a couple of weeks, right? Jack Driscoll has guard and tackle experience. Yep. Cam Jurgens has center guard experience. And Sua Opeta. So they got 3 guys who can play guard before they would have to dip into the Cameron Tom pool to play either guard or center. So they're pretty good there. I think tackle though is the area you would be concerned. So let's say Jordan Mailata got hurt in this game coming up. Andre Dillard's not ready. He's still hurt. And Jack Driscoll we've never seen him play left tackle before. So
but apparently
he would have to play it, but we've never seen him play left
tackle. It. Do you remember what Stout said? It shocked. Well, I don't know if it surprised us.
Right.
If you remember the time he talked in August, I guess the media kept asking him, and he basically, without saying the name, he's our backup left tackle. He kind of talked about how he'd taken reps there. He surprised him and all that. He's clearly the backup left tackle. And remember, for a year, Stout resisted. I know Lane didn't. What we heard, Lane really didn't want to do it.
Right.
here's a plan. He would do it if they asked him, but he really didn't want to be if the left tackle, if Peters got hurt, he didn't want to have to move over.
Mm-hmm.
So right now, Driscoll's that guy. It's a great point you make.
They're in a tough spot if left tackle gets hurt, because Driscoll would have to play left tackle. He's probably not ideally suited to play left tackle. And then, heaven forbid, if if Lane also got hurt, or with Dillard still, then we're pretty quickly dipping into the Roderick Johnson pool.
Well, here's another school of thought. When we get to the trade deadline, right? Let's think about this. The Chargers lose their left tackle for the season.
Yeah.
Last time I looked, there were 3 teams that needed a left tackle. The Chargers were one of them. That happened this week. Slater's out for the season.
Right.
Torn biceps.
That's tough.
The Ravens are down their backup left tackle, and Durrani Stanley is supposed to play this week, but he's missed. He hasn't played since the first game of the 21 season.
Right. Lions, are they out of tackle?
No, they're okay, but I'll tell you what, and I know it's a nice story. Matt Pryor, he's not a starting left tackle. That was a mistake by the Colts.
Yeah, Colts having him.
Bernard Raymond's not ready. They were rotating Raymond and Pryor. Who rotates left tackles in season?
Not many NFL teams are rotating left tackles ever, but especially in season.
Yeah, ridiculous. So
yeah,
I'm not. Dill's coming back from broken arms. I don't know how much value he would have, but you know what? He's on the last year of his deal. If somebody offers you a third, you might have leverage. I move him.
I would. Yeah. Now that you don't have Clark, and you got no. I don't know. It depends. Like, if the Eagles are really good at if they're like 6-2, 7-1, 8, I'm trying to think, like, you're going to value that backup tackle spot a whole lot more than a 3rd round pick at that point. If you're chasing a ring, I would think, because who's your backup left tackle? You're saying
chasing a ring. Whoa, back up. You just said it. They're chasing a ring after 3 weeks.
I said if. I'm saying if the Eagles are really, really good, which they're 3-0 now. Yeah, I would have to be interested. I have to, Howie would really have to weigh this one. I don't think it would be an easy trigger pull for him.
No, you're right, because remember last year we were told that they were pretty like, we're not trading Dillard.
Right.
They wouldn't really listen. But let me ask you this question. If you could recall, back in 2017 at the trade deadline, did you think I remember where I was at, in terms of my thinking, where they were at. Did you think that this could be a Super Bowl team, 17 at the trade deadline?
Yes. I was a doubter until they went down. I was not a doubter. I just didn't see a Super Bowl team until when they went down to Carolina on Thursday night and beat the Panthers. What was that, week 6? They improved, I think, to 5-1.
I remember. Wait to hear what Flip says about when he thought it was. His line is unbelievable.
It's really funny.
So much of what we talked about, I've talked to John throughout the years, and I had not talked about some of the stuff he said. I was kind of like, so many things he talked about I was not aware of. Mm-hmm. I'm kind of like watching this in awe. I'm like, I wish we could put this out for free so like millions of people could see it, but we can't.
Right.
So you folks are subscribers of our Patreon page. It got something pretty damn cool. I just wanted to bring that up because I remember I called someone in the front office and said, hey, I think if you're willing to admit it, this is kind of like, wow, who knew you guys would be this good?
Mm-hmm.
Well, that's what we're talking about. And that's when because they were looking at what did they need to make that playoff push, as you're talking about, the Super Bowl push.
Yeah.
And they made the trade for Ajayi. So on your point about trading Dillard, that's the problem that you have, because if you trade Dillard when he's healthy, you're in a pickle here. Are you really going to go with Jack Driscoll as your left tackle if someone gets hurt? If your left tackle gets hurt? Oh.
And by the way, if you're Howie, like, a 3rd round pick sounds obvious and great, but also remember that this is the last year, right, of Andre Dillard's contract. So if he leaves in free agency, it's not like you get nothing. You will get, because I guarantee a left tackle who's available in free agency, he'll get. Look what Halapoulivaati Vaitai got from the Lions. Like, Andre Dillard will get a good enough contract that it's going to go a long way in your comp pick formula. I mean, it might help you bring back a 4th, at very least a 5th. I know. I'm going to assume here that the Eagles are not going to be really heavily into free agency in the next year because they've shored up so many spots and have nice depth at certain areas, and they've got a ton of draft picks. They really don't need to be honest with you. So I'm going to assume that big contract that Dillard would sign would help them. And so Howie could say, all right, I could get a third, but I could also maybe settle for the fifth and having the guy for a Super Bowl run. There's a lot to go into that.
Well, it's hard to find left tackles, and good left tackles really walk. And I know his tape in his latest, whenever he played last, we'd heard it was better.
Mm-hmm.
But look, he's been hurt a little bit. He's never even come close to being the player they thought he would be. And then, they by luck of a miracle, Mailata's like, although he still got it, he still has improvement to make. I mean, it's kind of one of the most remarkable stories in NFL history. You can't make it up. But the fact of the matter is, pretty damn good roster. And they're going to have some, I think, good decisions to make that are kind of challenging.
Definitely. All right, injury report. Jaguars, fairly healthy. Zay Jones, they're one of their free agent wide receivers, has an ankle that he's dealing with.
Yeah, in fact, we're told here that it's not looking great for him. He did not practice. He was added after Thursday's practice with an ankle injury, which means he either got hurt at the end of the practice on Wednesday, or he got treatment Thursday because his ankle was bothering him.
Right.
We're told it was not looking good, which means maybe we'll see if he can get out there today. So I would be pessimistic if you have it for fantasy. He's been really surprising for fantasy.
He's leading them in receptions, I believe. So
yeah, he's been Christian Kirk's been amazing too. So Jamal Agnew, Tim Jones is the speed guy, number 15. I saw him make plays in training camp. And then Jamal Agnew, who's a former he punt and kick return. He was a corner for Detroit. Yeah. Last year they moved to slot. And he had a serious injury last year. He was kicking ass before he got hurt. But as our team source said, not a great group of backups. They would have to go with the committee if Jones can't play. He's technically their third receiver, but they use him like he's a 2.
Right. Well, it'll be interesting to see if they try to attack the Eagles with a little 12 instead of 11 because of how good the Eagles have been covering, and maybe they feel like there's something to be done there in the run and RPO game. So we'll see. Let's see. So that was one injury to monitor, and the other one was Shaquille Griffin, right? The cornerback with the his hip.
Yeah, he didn't play last week. He's their top corner.
Yep.
Remember they traded CJ Henderson last year, so that would be an issue. Tyson Campbell's the second rounder last year, who's come on a little bit. We'll talk about the matchups in a couple minutes, but yeah, these could be impactful. Now, again, barring a change, it's going to rain, so we'll see how much they throw. But listen, both teams are more of an 11 personnel team than 12, particularly the Jaguars. We'll get into that matchup and explain to you how they see their personnel. But overall, it's going to be interesting to see what they do here if Zay Jones can't go, because that certainly would hurt them, as you're talking about, if they have to go to 11 personnel.
No doubt about it. On the Eagles side, A.J. Brown missed some practice for personal reasons this week. We'll see if he gets back to the team today. I imagine as long as he's back, he'll be fine.
I heard
it's an injury.
Yeah, it's not an injury, and I heard it's your family. It's not a bad thing.
Right.
So it's just I'd be shocked if he's not back.
Right. The one you got to watch is Boston Scott, because it's a rib and he's a running back and he's been out of practice. We'll see if he does anything today. But he was one of the few guys who was out Wednesday, but then also out Thursday. Like Devontae Smith was back by Thursday. He was dealing with a back, and even Landon Dickerson, I think, was limited on Thursday. We'll see what he does today. He's got the foot that he's been dealing with. Darius Slay was a full participant Thursday, so I imagine he should be fine today after missing Wednesday with a little bit of a back. Now, some of these guys are also getting rest too. It's like they go with rest or back, or you know what I'm saying? Yeah. And then Milton Williams with the knee was limited, I believe, on Thursday. Yep. We'll see what he does today.
So all these guys got hurt. You saw Smith on the big catch. He fell on his back. He missed the play and he came back.
Right.
That's what that injury is. The foot goes back to training camp for Dickerson. This has got to be watched. He had to leave the game. This is an issue. He's had it for several weeks. You don't know now. I don't know if it's going to go away. I don't know much about it. I just know it's the same injury from training camp.
Yeah.
Another funny thing is the Scott injury. I can't tell if he has a multiple rib injury, but it's just listed as rib. The reason I even bring that up, I'm noticing on the injury reports around the NFL, most teams are not saying ribs. The reason is they don't want anyone to know that it's a multiple rib injury. They don't want anyone to know where it is. Someone clued me in on that. That's a trend now.
Like if you're a linebacker and you know a running back has ribs injury listed, do you think you're actually like isolating in your mind where in the ribs you think you want to hit
Yes,
the guy? Like
yes.
Boston Scott's 5'8". His
I
doesn't
know,
have
but
a
it's off
very
the
big
tape.
strike zone to begin with.
But it's off the. Here's how they do it. It's off the coaching tape. So what happens? The pro personnel people,
Uh-huh.
they have to identify. You hear DeFilippo talk about this. It's their job to identify where the injury is.
Yes.
They don't want them to know that it's more than one rib. And obviously, you could see if it's ribs. They're going to go find it. And they're going to watch every play that running back had.
Uh-huh.
They're going to want to identify is it left, middle, or right part of his ribs. It's just
Good luck. Good luck.
I know, but someone in the league mentioned this to me. He goes, I don't know if you notice this stuff. And I go, when he told me, I'm like, really? And I know this is the guy who works in pro personnel. It's his job to find this stuff out. I'm like, how do you guys figure this crap out? I was like, all right, that's cool. And I said, can I use this? He goes, absolutely. He goes, don't, he's like, just use it however you want. He goes, I'm telling you, we see this stuff. I'm like, okay.
Yeah. Yeah. So the only injury here that I think you were on this, I'm a little concerned about is Landon Dickerson. Because it's a foot injury. He's had a lot of lower leg injuries. He's a big man, and big man with feet injuries can be very difficult. You see a lot in basketball, right? I mean, Embiid had the foot injury for a while. Ben Simmons had the Jones, right? And Todd McCullough, the center, right? Those big guys and those foot injuries, man, that's rough. So hopefully his is a manageable one. I mean, clearly he's been able to play through it, but you just wonder how long is it? Who knows? I don't want to start guessing if it's what it is, but
yeah, it's from August, so we know he missed practice time with a foot issue.
Yeah,
in training camp. So I don't know. It's not good. I mean, again, we're not saying it's serious, but it's
no.
lingering. It's lingering.
Yeah, hopefully it's not the plantar fasciae because that's a tough one.
Yeah, we'll look into it for Sunday on our pregame show. We'll definitely look into that. So that's it for injuries. But yeah, I mean, they're all minor in scope. Milton Williams, you saw he left the game. He got up and he left and he came back. By the way, he played very well Sunday. Boy, Tom Donahoe didn't like that pick, but he's a player, man.
Done well.
Yep.
All right, get the very best CBD that you can. I was almost going to say free CBD, but it's not free. You can get the very best CBD at our friends at freestonefarmscbd.com by using that promo code ITB, and what you'll get is 20% off. 20% off some of the most organic CBD you can find on the market. I mean, it's grown in the Garden State here in New Jersey, all organic inputs. There's the Bayox at 24%. There's the Half Hindu Kush at 21%. This is some of the most natural CBD that you can find out there. Good for what you put into your body. So make sure you're checking out our friends at freestonefarmscbd.com and use that promo code ITB. Go get yourself 20% off CBD. Whether you're working out or you need to help you sleep or you got some pain management, 20% off is a great deal. So use the promo code ITB, get yourself 20% off at freestonefarmscbd.com.
Oh,
yes.
One little note. I want to give a shout out to a guy, Ryan from Horizon Services, who's a huge Eagles fan. He is going to the Cardinals game.
Okay.
And his Horizon Services, they're servicing our furnace. We're going to need a new one, but we had a great meeting him. He's a diehard Eagles fan, and he's now joined our Facebook board. He's that into it. When he was working, he took a break. He went on our Facebook page. He goes, dude, I just joined him. I'm like, okay.
That's awesome. Get him on the Patreon page too as well. We'll be cooking. Wait, he's doing your furnace?
Yeah, we are furnace.
You said Horizon.
Horizon,
right? With an H? Horizon. My bad.
Yeah, Horizon. Yeah.
I confused you with the internet company. My fault. Verizon. I thought you said Verizon at first. So.
Yeah, so good job by Ryan. And he's a huge. Man, he's crazy. His family's had season tickets since the '60s, and he's going out to Eagles game in Arizona. So have fun.
All right, Ryan, we appreciate you. All right, the Jaguars offense we're going to get into versus the Eagles defense. Now, the Jaguars offense, there's something about this Jags offense, Adam, that should surprise. No, there's a stat that should not surprise. That everybody should be like, oh, duh, of course. And that is they are a ball control, time of possession offense. I believe right now they're ranked number 2 in the NFL in time of possession. And those who remember Doug Pederson's tenure with the Eagles will remember that the Eagles were 1 or 2 in time of possession 3 of his first 4 years. And the year he wasn't, he was 4th. And then 2020 happened, and that doesn't count. but that is the epitome of a Doug Pederson offense. It's careful, it's ball control, it can hit you in multiple different ways, and of course, he's got Trevor Lawrence playing really good football right now.
It's interesting. They don't run it particularly well. I mean, James Robinson has been amazing coming back from his torn Achilles. He showed up to training camp, I would say a little bit overweight, need to get in better shape, and he's done better, but he's had a couple big runs that makes their yards per carry look better than it really is. ETN has not gotten the big plays that they were looking for. They're still trying to figure out the staff how to use him. They're running okay. Their line, it's interesting. Their line is not protected great, but you just hit on it. Lawrence is what they're doing is they're getting the ball out of his hands, I'm told, in 2.3 seconds or less.
Yeah.
And it's negating their pass protection, which is not great.
Right, because he's only been sacked twice.
That's it. It plays to the point. So they're not a very good line. It's better than previous years where they spent all these draft capital. And remember, Brandon Linder, their center, retired.
Yep.
And they're going with a revamped line. Sheriff stud. His problem was always with Washington's injury. Juwan Taylor's been a disappointment as a right tackle. It's a funny year's deal. Cam Robinson's a decent left tackle. I'm kind of shocked that they extend his contract, but he's been with them since 17. Ortner's the center, who I know Greg Cosell loves. Greg likes him a lot. He's out of Ohio State, I think. And Ben Barch is a first-time starter from 2020. He's the 4th rounder at left guard. They're okay. Here's the thing. If Cox and Hargrave bring their A game, they're going to dominate this game. Their line isn't that good.
Well, yeah. I mean, it's really like we said about the coverage. It's going to obviously Trevor Lawrence is getting the ball out very fast, so the offense is designed to get the ball to Christian Kirk and to use the flats and throw. Yeah,
that's why the linemen have to get their hands up. Don't let him.
Right.
If he's going to quick game you, get him up. That's what you got to do.
I wonder if they're running a lot of RPOs. I haven't had a chance to check out a lot of.
We'll ask. It's a good one.
We'll see.
Yeah, I didn't ask that.
So that's my concern for the Eagles defense is what I think Jacksonville will try to do. Doug being smart enough, because this is not a downfield offense either. They are not. They only have 2 receptions of 20 or more yards. So it's not a downfield offense. Actually, it's a midfield offense. Go ahead.
Midfield, yes. They've tried. They haven't been quite, the timing hasn't been there.
Right. I'm sure Doug wants it to be. I was just saying that they have not successfully driven the ball downfield.
Correct.
So, but they're efficient. I mean, Lawrence has 6 touchdowns, 1 interception. So that's really good numbers. Only 1 interception on 111 attempts is pretty darn good. So that to me says, and if you look at the distribution, Zay Jones was their leading receiver, but Christian Kirk is their leading in receiving yards. So one has more catches, the other has more yards, and Evan Ingram is 3rd on that team. So they've been able to use him in spots too. So Doug's spreading it out. He's probably only having 5 guys block because that's his MO.
That's amazing.
Yeah, and what I suspect they will try to do is, and probably do a better job of, is what the Rams did, which is run a little bit, but they really tried to. I'm not the Rams, sorry, the Vikings. The whole Kevin O'Connell thing makes me want to call them the Rams all the time. But I assume they're going to want to try to throw the ball on the Eagles at the edges. They might want to get the ball to ETN in the flats, Ingram in the flats, over the middle. Over the middle is going to be tough if the Eagles are pattern matching as well as they did against Washington. But that does leave the sides. Screens. We know Doug loves to throw screens. I think that's going to be a big part of what they try to do against the Eagles. And then try to use that, Adam, to set up some shot plays. They're going to have to try to take some shot plays.
Yeah, again, the rain will play into this, but
right.
But if the conditions are okay, when they go to 12 personnel, Chris Manhertz is the only the Urban Meyer wanted this guy in the worst way because he wanted to hide the quarterback last year.
Of course he
wanted to pound the ball. Manhertz, what great name, by the way.
Yes.
All he does is block. Ingram and Dan Arnold are flex tight ends. That's the way they use them. This offense, we're told, almost a mirror image of Pederson's 16 and 17 teams.
Wow. That means you're going to see a lot. Yeah, you're going to see it. Like you said, ton 11 personnel. You're probably going to see a lot of spread.
It's an 11 personnel team. It's spread West Coast.
Yeah.
Exactly what it is. The Joneses, Zay and Marvin, and Christian Kirk, though we're told Zay Jones doesn't look great. Agnew's his backup. And that's pretty much what you'll see. ETN is a changeup.
Mm-hmm.
Snoop Connor, who played a lot in the preseason, is not even dressing now. They're using Jermichael Hasty as a third because he formerly the Niners because he played on specials. But they're still trying to figure out, as I said, with ETN. Ingram and Arnold are slot tight ends. They don't really block. Ingram, we're told they're very happy with. I'll tell you what, man. And also here's another nugget for you. Jim Bob Cooter, James Robert, as I call him, formerly of the Eagles, and Mike McCoy apparently been phenomenal at developing. I know Press Taylor is the OC, but Jim Bob Cooter and Mike McCoy have done a phenomenal job of coaching. That's a quarterback room right there, Bob.
Yeah, that's a little nice one. That's a nice one. So again, a lot of spread. I think you'll see a lot of 2x2. I think you'll see a lot of empty, because when you're empty, that means you got to get rid of the ball quickly. And clearly Trevor Lawrence is doing a good job of that. And it's also a good way to negate a good pass rush like the Eagles have. Plus, if you go empty and you put a lot of like 3 receivers on one side, it's hard to pattern match. Like, that's a lot of guys you got to match, carry, and deliver.
True.
So look, the tape is out there of what the Eagles have done defensively, and Doug is smart enough to try to figure out ways to counteract it, or at least put his players in position to counteract it with his play calling. So I think it's going to be pretty interesting. They're not an explosive team. Christian Kirk's done nicely, but in general, they're just a short game you down the field, and it's worked for them so far. They've outscored their last opponents 62-10 because
unbelievable
defense has been great too. We'll get to that in a second.
Oh, the defensive been lights out lately. And remember, week 1 they came very close to beating Washington.
Right.
They lost by 6, but they could have won that game. They came back, they took the lead, and then Wentz brought them back to win it. But they have an explosive offense. They're not, as you said, they're not getting explosive plays. But Christian Kirk, he's playing a lot inside, but he's explosive with the ball in his hands. I'm interested to see that. And
sure,
it's funny. You and I talked when the season started. The teams would target TJ Edwards. It ain't working so far.
Yeah.
No one's been able to get him yet. I'm kind of stunned by this. We'll see what happens.
Yeah. Explosive offense. I don't know. That's interesting. I've looked at their touchdowns. Most of their touchdowns are within 5 to 15-yard touchdowns.
But again, you don't have to 30 yards. If you talk to coaches, they don't say, well, every explosive play has to be 20 yards.
Right.
It's between any explosive play in coaching is 5 yards or more.
Mm-hmm.
They're getting a lot of those plays.
Yes, they're moving the ball really well. Obviously, the time of possession shows that. So,
but not the super explosive like fans love and we love. No, you're right.
There you go. All right. So, is there anything you mentioned the line? We mentioned the running backs, the wide receivers to look for, the tight ends.
Good.
The quarterback's playing well. So you know what? I think Trevor Lawrence is a guy who I don't know how many Eagles fans have actually watched play because they weren't on national TV a whole lot last year, or if at all. They haven't been this year. So I'm sort of intrigued myself, Adam. I mean, I really haven't a chance to see him, especially in a real offense with a real head coach, what he can do. So I'm kind of excited to see him.
Yeah, I just think Doug's done a tremendous job, and I obviously give the coaches credit because from what you understand, these 2 guys, Jim Bob Cooter and Mike McCoy, certainly have a hand in it, managing this situation. They're doing a great job of getting the ball out of his hands because last year Lawrence did not play well. I'll be kind about it. He struggled. The scheme was bad last year. It just was not. It just wasn't working. And having to learn this is 3 offenses in 3 years for him. So going back to Clemson, so that's obviously going to have an impact. But Doug is good at managing quarterbacks for the most part. Obviously it fell apart with Ian Wentz, but there are a lot of reasons for that.
Yep.
But overall, I wish the weather would hold up. It's too damn bad.
Yeah, I know. It still might. We'll see. These things change courses and paths all the time, so we'll see.
Oh, look, today in Tampa, it's good late in the day. It's going to clear. The storm's is going to clear 2 days before they
saw that. I'm excited. I guess they're still going to have the football game in Tampa, which is good for the people there. If they can make it, that's great. All right, let's take a break for real quick. Just to remind our friends about PHLSportsNation.com. They're enhancing the fans' experience with their coverage of all Philadelphia sports teams. For the fan, by the fan is their motto. So make sure you check them out at PHLSportsNation.com and on Twitter at PHLSportsNation. We'll pause real quick for another word from our great sponsors, including our friends at Sky Motor Cars. And if you head out there to Sky Motor Cars out there in Westchester, PA, make sure you tell them Adam and Geoff sent you. You will get the best deal. All right. Eagles offense has been on a roll. It has been enjoyable to watch, although the second halves have obviously been an issue. We're going to take a deeper dive into that in the pregame show on Sunday, so make sure you're watching. Okay. But regardless, right now, very, very efficient offense, Adam. And I think you hit the point on the head where the first two games you were seeing some things, and then you saw the extra development last week against Washington with a real downfield offense that you didn't see in the first two games. I mean, really downfield. Yeah,
6 shots. Like, who takes 6 shots in the? It was unbelievable, and it just shows the confidence this staff has in Hurts.
Right.
Didn't see that last year. They were not letting him do it after week 2. I think I have to go back and look. He threw the bomb to Quez Watkins against the Niners, and then they changed the offense because they just didn't think he could handle it. Mm-hmm. Boy, they're giving him the kitchen sink. What? They're not holding anything back, quite frankly.
No, they're really not. They're not. Now, this game will be interesting for them because what they are facing this week in Jacksonville is a very athletic front seven. Probably the most, well, you know what? I thought the Lions had a pretty athletic front seven too that came after them. I don't know if they'll come after them like the Lions did, but they're getting really good linebacker play from their 2 additions, one being the draft pick of Devin Lloyd, the other being the, can you pronounce his name for me? The kid they signed from the Falcons who went to Harvard?
Oluokun, yeah, the linebacker.
It's Oluokun, right?
Yeah, he's from Yale. He went there, actually. You want to hear an unbelievable story?
By the way, is that a diss? If you go to Yale and someone's accidentally mistaken you as someone who went to Harvard, is that like
I know.
Is that like Ivy League smack talk right there?
Yeah.
Like, you can get shot in New Haven for saying that.
Oh, especially if you don't get Pepe's pizza.
Yeah, well, especially.
Yeah, Pepe's. I've never been to Sally's. Can you believe that?
Just as good.
I've heard, yeah. I guess their family broke up and whoever Sally is started Sally's. But Oluokun came to Yale as a safety and then moved to linebacker. Funny story. I talked to 3 agents prior to that draft when he came out. Didn't want him. They just didn't think he was. The NFL people didn't think much of him. Mm. Really good. It's on a nice contract. He's been a good story. Mike Cole plays a 34 front. He mirrors everything off his mentor Todd Bowles. Mm-hmm. They worked together for like 20 years for a bunch of teams. And he's the first time Mike has called plays. He's doing an excellent job. They're very aggressive. Right. As you said, they're athletic and they're Trent Baalke. This is a Trent Baalke team. They got to be long. He wants height, weight, speed. That's what he's known for better or worse. Mm-hmm. They got to have a long arm. So their D linemen are long. Fatukasi is the run guy coming over for the Jets, number 94. Josh Allen.
By the way, he was a good player with the Jets. Folu Fatukasi. Yes, he was a good player.
Good player.
Yep.
Dwan Smoot was drafted by Dave Caldwell. He's a good player. It's good development. He's been there for 6 years. Chad Muma can't go on the field because Devin Lloyd missed most of training camp with, I don't know what the injury was, but I think he won Rookie of the Week. Maybe one of these weeks. He's playing great. Cosell told me Trevon Walker has been terrific so far.
Oh, good. Yeah, I mean, I figured he would be. Yeah.
So on your point, man, you nailed it.
I think Arden Key has been playing for them too, and he was a guy I loved with San Francisco. Yeah, I thought he'd be great for the Eagles, man. I really did.
Yep. So right now, if you look at it, their front seven's athletic. They have pass rushers. In the back end now, again, we don't know about the rain. How much? If for some reason the conditions aren't too bad, it looks like Griffin's on his way to playing because he got working Wednesday and Thursday. We'll see what happens today. But if he can, and Darius Williams is athletic. You might remember from the Rams.
Yes.
Who's their nickel corner? They got Chris Claybrooks. Claybrooks has been there since 2020's backup. Trey Herndon could play nickel if they need him to. They have some depth, but it would be a problem if this kid can't play at corner. Griffin, who didn't play last week, you might remember from the Seahawks. So the other now safety, they're really gifted. Cisco had a ton, double-digit picks at Syracuse. He had his first pick earlier this season.
Yep.
And Rayshawn Jenkins is the big safety they signed from the Chargers a couple years ago. A Wingard just was not. He was a starter for them, but they know they had an upgrade and they did that. Tell you what, This team is seriously talented, man.
It
Chad
is.
Muma can't even get on the field, third round linebacker, so they're pretty gifted.
Well, I tell you, where have we heard this before? A third round linebacker who can't get on the field.
But for a good reason.
Sounds like a well. That's what I'm saying. It's not. I'm not talking
N'Kobe.
about. I wasn't talking about
Yeah.
Davion Taylor. I was talking about N'Kobe Dean.
No, N'Kobe. I know where you're going. No, it's
right.
true, man.
Yeah.
It is amazing. Now I know it's only 3 weeks, and they got they still have to play the Titans. The Jags do.
Yeah.
I know the Colts can't beat them in Jacksonville. Maybe Jacksonville will lose to them in Indy. Who knows? But man, it's pretty impressive when you outscore teams 62-10 over 2 weeks. Man, that's impressive.
That is very impressive. And again, we don't want to make too much of anybody, Eagles or Jacksonville's rankings after 3 weeks or their records. But right now, the Jaguars have the #1 rush defense in the NFL. So, and it's not because teams are throwing it all over them. It's not, they're okay in pass yards, but they're not like last or anything like that. So they are allowing 55-yard rushing yards. And listen, running is what is a big bread and butter for the Eagles, whether it's the RPO or the design quarterback run, either whatever you want to call it. They run the ball, or just to Miles Sanders or whatever. They running the ball is, and the complement to that in their passing game is very important. We have not seen the Eagles yet, although they did not run the ball well against Washington, but we haven't really seen them completely flummoxed in the run game yet. And this team has the ability to do it and then make you be one-dimensional. And as you mentioned, they've got a bunch of interceptions already. So, look, I think it's fair to say, I mean, this will probably be their best test defensively for the first 4 weeks. Yeah.
But I would disagree on one thing.
What's
they
that?
couldn't run the ball as well as they liked last week, and they could care less.
I didn't say they could care. I just said they didn't run the ball.
No, but I'm just saying they didn't seem to care, which is interesting.
Right, because they were throwing it all over the place.
Yeah, that's the thing. That's what I mean. And a friend of mine said to me, he's like, "You think that was their plan?" I said, "Yes, I think they were throwing no matter what because William Jackson was out.
Right.
They have not covered well at all in the back end, and if you're going to beat them, throw the football. That was, as we said."
You don't want to run the ball into Jonathan Allen and Daron Payne. That's not a good strategy.
By the way, now on that, they did beat the Eagles interior. They did a very good job.
Yeah, well, they're Pro Bowl. They're good.
Yeah,
they're great.
Sure. But what I would tell you is, again, they were most pass attempts for Hurts in his career in one half. The first half, coming out in the first half, 27. That's a career high in a first half game. And obviously, most of these coaches have called as a unit here in Philly. And I love it. That tells you how much they trust him. When you don't trust the quarterback, he only throws it 12, 13, 14, 15 times. That's what gives you the book on a quarterback when you're trying to develop a quarterback. How much they let him throw. It's simple as that.
Well, with Shaq Griffin out, just like the way William Jackson was out, you wouldn't be surprised if they tried to take more shots like that. If they said, "Hey, this team stops the run well, fine. They got their best corner out. Let's throw it,
man.
Let's
wait
attack."
Wait to hear what Flip says, folks. If you're Patreon subscribers about passing and running, I'm not going to give you I'm going to give you one hint. I almost lost it with the way he said it. I'm not going to say anything else because you will die if you watch it. Do we put it on you? Well, does it have audio and video
on Patreon? Yeah, you can watch the whole thing. Yeah.
Okay.
Audio, video.
You have to see my face. I'm literally hearing.
You are. You're like fist pumping too at the same time.
I was. You're right.
You're like Frank the Tank.
There's a reason why. You'll figure it out.
Yeah. So I just think the sort of interesting matchup to watch is, will they come after Jalen Hurts defensively? And if they do, because Mike Caldwell is a former Eagles linebacker under Jim Johnson. He's coached under Todd Bowles, not only through Tampa Bay, but even before that with the Jets. He was with Todd Bowles, and he was with him in Arizona when Bruce Arians was there as the head coach. So we know Todd Bowles likes to blitz. We know that Jim Johnson was a selectively good blitzer. So I'm sure Mike Caldwell's got some interesting ideas on what he wants to do. And what I'm fascinated to see is with an athletic player that he's got in Devin Lloyd, who is just off the charts athleticism. Is that guy kind of a spy? Is that his, maybe chess piece in trying to slow down Jalen Hurts? We will get that question answered on Sunday when the game's on, but then we'll talk about that also on the pregame show too. But to me, Adam, I think that's sort of the fascinating matchup. How they use Devin Lloyd and maybe Travon Walker too as a rusher. Do they not have him rush all the way upfield? Do they mush rush it and use his athleticism to try to get him to force Hurts out of the pocket to his left?
Yeah. Jacksonville, by the way, is 11th in blitz percentage at 27.6. Eagles are in the middle of 24.3.
Mm-hmm.
I'm shockingly, it's not higher, the Jacksonville blitz percentage.
Well, I just think that he's not ready with those corners that you know to really be what he wants. You know, I think that they need an upgrade there before he trusts it. You know.
I don't know. Well, Griffin's pretty good. The kid Campbell's got to prove so. It's a fair
Yeah,
point.
yeah. Did Griffin play last game though?
No, he didn't. He was hurt.
Well,
Yeah.
that's what I'm saying. Maybe that. I mean, again, any one game is going to influence the rankings after 3 weeks because it's 33% of your defense or your schedule so far. So,
Sure.
we'll see. We'll see. All right, I think that's pretty much. By the way, I'd never heard of their kicker, but he seems to be doing a pretty good job. Riley Patterson.
Yeah, he's been around a little bit. So I want to say young journeyman, but he's been in a couple camps.
Okay.
Because of the rain, it's really hard to. It's just so hard to know what the plan will be.
Yeah.
Because we don't know we just don't know how. Like, is it going to be a hard rain? As you were saying earlier, it's a very good point. I'll tell you what, you make a good point also. This is the best, I think it's the best test they're going to get from a front seven.
Mm-hmm.
Because they don't have they don't have a weakness on the front seven. Their front three is strong, long, very stout. Not, I wouldn't call them super athletic, but you've got at the next level, you got Josh Allen, who's super athletic, is an stand-up outside linebacker, overhang player. Deron Walker he's people question whether he could stand up at this level. He sure can so far. You mentioned Lloyd and Aluakun. They're very talented. I have not. I'll ask Greg Cosell about Chase on if he's playing, who's a first rounder 20. We haven't really heard much about him.
Yeah.
This is, and your guy Arden Key, this is a heck of a front. This is a hell of a defense, man, that Mike Caldwell's coaching.
Yeah, it's a pretty interesting stretch here for the Eagles, Adam. If you look at it over long term, as far as facing defensive fronts, for the next 4 weeks, Jacksonville being one. I don't think Arizona's front is as good as the others, but you got Jacksonville. Yeah. Then in 2 weeks you have the Cowboys. I think they have maybe arguably the best. Well, Tampa Bay still has the best defensive front, but the Cowboys are definitely up there. And then the Steelers after the bye week. So that's 3 of 4 teams here on the docket that have really good and athletic defensive fronts. So we'll see how the Eagles offense can respond to that.
They'll miss Watt though. They're going to miss Watt though.
Arizona.
No. When you said Pittsburgh.
Oh, I'm sorry, Pittsburgh. Yeah, no, I know, but they're still going to be a good. They're always a good defensive front. The guy who's filling in for him, Highsmith from Coast. Was he from?
Well, he starts at one side. It's Malik. The kid Malik Reed plays on the other side now.
Right, but Highsmith is leading the NFL in sacks, I think. So
Alex Highsmith is a good player. Yeah.
Andrew DeCecco was on him years ago, man. Yeah,
good player. Yeah. But the problem with Pittsburgh's secondary is really, other than Fitzpatrick, who has concussion right now, it's their weak at corner.
Yeah, but right. But defensive front wise, they'll be solid. Yeah,
they'll be all right. Yeah, the thing is, they're terrible against the run, the Steelers. But the key here is protection. If they protect Hurts, they're throwing the football, man. I'm convinced. No one's told me this, but based on the way they tried to throw the ball last year early on, I'm convinced that Sirianni wants to throw the ball a lot. They're up per game about 6 attempts per game over last year after week 6.
Mm-hmm.
And you saw how much they threw it last week in the first half. That's the best way, as Joe Banner taught me. The best way to know what they're going to be is always check the pass attempts in the first half, and it's pretty obvious where this thing's going here.
All right, one last thing before we get out of here. I forgot to mention it. As of the time that this podcast comes out, or I don't know, it comes out 6 a.m, so people might be listening at different times, but as of the time of us doing it, Britton Covey has not been signed to the 53-man roster. However, and remember, he's out of elevations. They can't elevate him anymore.
Yep.
But the Eagles also haven't brought in anybody, to my knowledge, to occupy that last spot either and return punts. So to me, all signs are that they're just waiting till the last minute and they're going to add him to the 53-man roster at some point. Because who else would you have return punts right now?
By the way, just again, so you know, it's Friday at 6 a.m. Eastern. They have till Saturday at 4 p.m. Eastern to do it. They so often wait. I know they do this on purpose. They don't announce stuff until like 4:15. It's so annoying on Saturday. Because Geoff and I are putting together a rundown for Sunday, and I take care of the transactions and notes and so forth. And I'm like waiting. I'm like, can you just put this damn thing out already so I can move on? Do me the favor. But anyway.
I know, man. It would be nice, but not in the cards. All right, so moment of reckoning is here. Adam Caplan, who wins this game, and how's it going? Oh, by the way, I should give the line for you, as I always seem to forget to do at the last second.
I didn't even look this week.
Last I checked, it was 6.5 Eagles favored on the Bet Rivers app. So I'm just going to give a quick double check again to make sure nothing's changed since I saw it. And it is Eagles favored by 6.5 still, with an over on total of 45.5. A little low there.
Well, here's the thing. Because of the rain,
I'm
going to go Jaguars 16, Eagles 20.
You and I are on the same wavelength here. I also thought it was going to be a low scoring game, even without the rain, just like the way these two defenses are playing right now. So I was going to take had Eagles 24, Jaguars 17.
Under
24-17. Yeah, under.
And you picked Washington. Did you pick Washington last week?
No.
Who picked Washington? Did someone?
Nobody picked Washington. Me and Greg picked the Vikings week 2. That's where but none of us picked Washington last week.
Gotcha. Okay. Right. One of these days, they're going to pick the Eagles' opponent. I'm probably going to pick Dallas one of these times when the two times they play the Eagles. But I'll tell you what, they've got to go. The staff has got a rhythm right now. The D coordinator, who we crushed last year, because quite frankly, when you coach conservatively in this league, you're never going to make it long term. You just won't. It won't. A team that's well managed does not let a coach get away with being conservative in this business,
right?
For the long term, and thank goodness their D coordinator knows what he's doing. He has the horses, as they say, and it's showing up. But one thing we didn't mention: their special teams has got to be better, man. Not good enough.
Absolutely, 100%. Now, Britton Covey's probably going to wind up being the guy, but when he returns the punts, and Q&A had a fun time talking about this one, but I'm laughing because they had some pretty vivid descriptions of what it looks like when Britton Covey gets hit by somebody.
By the way, the storytelling, without giving it, there are a couple good stories on this one, man.
Yeah, some really, really good stories. They're right. When Britton Covey gets hit, it's not usually that big of a hit, but it looks like
a crash dummy.
Looks like a crash dummy.
He looks like it's jacked up, but I don't know if he's bracing himself for it. It's kind of weird.
I think it's just because he's little, man. There was a Jeremy Bloom dropped in the Q&A pod, by the way, but not for the reason that you might think. So, but it was in a discussion about punt returns. So anyway, we both have the Eagles winning. Sounds like we both are taking even the under on a low total there of 45.5, and we'll do it even more so on Sunday with Greg Cosell, Jason Avant, and then after the game with Trey Thomas. So thanks for everybody. That'll do it for this edition of Inside the Birds, the leading podcast for Eagles Intel. Thanks as always to our producer, Tyler Strasser, does a great job. And as always, we thank you for flying with us inside the birds.